In today's video, we will be taking a look at my updated 2024 presidential election prediction, this time between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. I haven't done a prediction with Kamala Harris for quite a while now, so I figured I'll probably do one today. Kamala Harris being the current vice president, while Donald Trump being the 45th president of the United States. Now, this is the map with the safe states filled in. Kamala Harris at 181 electoral votes to Donald Trump at 113. Kamala Harris probably isn't as strong of a candidate as Joe Biden, but we'll see how that fares in today's prediction. We're going to start off with Donald Trump's likely states here that has not been filled in. Alaska, South Carolina, both these are going to be pretty strong likely states for Donald Trump. Both of them voted for Trump by double digits in 2020. So moving on here to the states of Iowa and Ohio, both these states voted for Donald Trump by 8 points or so, and both these states trended Republican heavily between the years of 2012 and 2016 because Donald Trump was able to do very well with the working class of the United States, and especially in the Rust Belt regions. We do further see that in the state of Texas. I do expect that Donald Trump will be able to win the state of Texas. You can see that Trump won the state by 5.6 percentage points over Joe Biden in 2020. I expect a slightly larger margin against Kamala Harris in the state of Texas if this hypothetical election prediction does end up being the actual presidential election matchup. Now, finally, in the state of Florida, we do see that Donald Trump defeated Joe Biden there by 3.3 points, a remarkable win for Donald Trump in a state that he was actually expected to lose in 2020. Now, if we look at some of the trends here, we saw the largest county in the state, Miami-Dade County, shift 22 points to the Republican Party, along with many majority Hispanic counties end up shifting to the Republican Party. I do believe that Donald Trump will probably end up winning the state by closer to 10 points against Kamala Harris. So that's going to be a likely state for Donald Trump as well. Now for the states that Kamala Harris will win by a likely margin. Virginia, Colorado, and New Mexico, all three of these states voted for Joe Biden by at least 10 points, and although some of these states will probably be closer with Kamala Harris being in the top of the ballot, I still believe that Kamala Harris should be able to win all three of these states, as well as that in the state of Maine. The state of Maine voted for Kamala Harris by around 9 percentage points. Not the most significant margin, but nonetheless, I do believe that Kamala Harris will still be able to win Maine's at-large vote, but I do believe Maine's 2nd congressional district will go to Donald Trump. Now, the final states on this map will all be lean or tilt states for both sides. Let's start off with the state of Nevada. In the state of Nevada here, Joe Biden did end up defeating Donald Trump here by 2.4 points in 2020. The shifts actually look pretty good for the Republicans, and Kamala Harris overall as a candidate and her quality is just not as good as Joe Biden. In a state like Nevada, I just don't think that Kamala Harris will have the strongest of all appeals. I do believe that Donald Trump will probably be able to win the state. Now, going to the state of Arizona. Arizona is a heavily blue trending state. We see the two largest counties in the state, the counties of Maricopa and the county of Pima, which makes up about 75% of the state's population, and are both trending to the Democratic Party by 5 percentage points on a presidential election level. Trump is not someone who is very well liked in the state of Arizona. Polling right now actually has this race pretty competitive, even between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Nonetheless, the trends just don't look good for the Republican Party, and it also just seems like that someone like Trump will probably not be very well fit for a state like Arizona, and I do believe that probably Kamala Harris will end up winning the state of Arizona. Now going to the state of Georgia. This is another very close one between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Now, if we look at the trends just solely based on the trends, it seems pretty evident that the Atlanta area will be trending heavily towards the Democratic Party, thus resulting in Kamala Harris's victory. Nonetheless, Kamala Harris will probably underperform Joe Biden nationwide. In a state that Joe Biden barely won in 2020, I don't think Kamala Harris will have the largest of all advantages. However, with everything being considered, including current polling, including previous election statistics, and including the fact that I do not believe someone like Donald Trump will do very well in a state like Georgia with a lot of suburban influence, I do believe that at the end of the day, Kamala Harris will probably still end up winning the state of Georgia by a tilt margin. Next state will be the state of North Carolina. This is probably a pretty easy one here. I do believe that Donald Trump will win the state of North Carolina. This is pretty much a no-brainer because Trump won the state against Biden by 1.3%. I don't see him underperforming in this state, especially against someone like Kamala Harris, who is probably not going to do very well in some of the suburban regions around the Charlotte or Mecklenburg County area or around the Guilford or Wake County region. Therefore, I do believe that someone like Kamala Harris is probably going to lose the state by close to 5 points. Now going to the state of Minnesota. Minnesota's probably going to end up going for Kamala Harris because of the fact they voted for Biden by 7. That margin is large enough for someone like Kamala Harris to easily hold on, because although I don't think Kamala Harris is as good of a candidate as someone like Joe Biden, she's probably still going to end up winning a state that Biden does end up winning by a likely margin. Furthermore speaking, I just don't think that Donald Trump will be able to improve very much in some of the suburban areas that end up trending away from him in 2020. I think Minnesota is not a state where Trump can actually do the best in. I'm also going to get New Hampshire out of the way here. I do believe that someone like Kamala Harris will probably be able to win the state of New Hampshire, as well as that Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. This is also a district I do believe Kamala Harris will end up winning in. Now going to the state of Wisconsin. The state of Wisconsin here was a state that barely voted for Joe Biden over Donald Trump in 2020, and I do believe that this state will be very close between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Nonetheless, some of the trends in the rural areas look pretty good for the Republican Party, and someone like Kamala Harris is not going to be able to overperform Joe Biden in the wild counties. With everything being considered, I do believe that someone like Donald Trump should be able to win the state of Wisconsin over someone like Kamala Harris by probably speaking a lean margin. Now going to the state of Michigan. This race is also pretty competitive in my opinion. You see that in 2020, Joe Biden was able to defeat Donald Trump by 2.8 points in the state. Nonetheless, I do believe that this race is still very, very competitive, especially considering the fact that Kamala Harris isn't as good of a candidate as Joe Biden, and I do believe someone like Donald Trump should be able to do very well in the working class regions, potentially shift back some of the areas like Macomb County and some of these rural counties as well. And I do believe that someone like Kamala Harris will not be able to do very well in the Kent County suburbs, or most crucially in the Oakland County region, where many suburban voters could end up make or breaking the state for Democrats or Republicans. Overall speaking, I do believe that this race will be very close, but I do believe that Kamala Harris will end up edging the state out by a tilt margin. Finally, for the state of Pennsylvania, this is another very, very close state. In my opinion, both sides have a very good shot of winning or losing the state. Now, someone like Donald Trump should be able to do very well in the rural areas like he did in 2020. The rural turnout was very great in the state of Pennsylvania, but there were a lot of voters that ended up turning out against Donald Trump in the suburban regions. And I do believe that with Trump not being the presidential election office, I do believe that he might end up being able to win back some of the suburban voters and end up lowering the Democratic energy in some of the Philadelphia region suburbs. And I also believe that someone like Kamala Harris will not be able to energize the Democratic base. I believe that if Joe Biden does not end up running for re-election, that ultimately speaking, Donald Trump will probably end up winning the state of Pennsylvania. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.